This is the After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
Hey everybody, it is the After Party live on this Friday. I'm so excited it's Friday. I don't know why. It's not like I have any big plans for the weekend, but it's just nice to, take a breath after a very, very busy week. I also, there's been so many compliments about Michael Schur filling in for Mark Thompson this week. And I completely agree. And I love Michael Schur. But I'm not sure whether to be offended or not when people are like, bring him back the next time. I'm like, hey, I was filling in for a while. What is it about me that you don't like? Trying not to take it personally, but Michael Schur was really, really good this week, and we will have him back in the future. Hopefully we'll get his audio issues figured out because it was a little bit crackly today. So we'll figure out why that's happening the next time he's on and make it happen. Yeah, Liz says there was an audio with Mark's show. I agree. And we were talking about it after the show. That's why it took me a few minutes to get here. And yeah, it was a little bit distracting. So, and some words were cut out. Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough one. But he is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. It's funny. Phineas says, I missed Nikki's show yesterday. I fell asleep at 5 p.m. You know what I think about that, Phineas? Is that when you fall asleep so early or you sleep for like 10, 11 hours, your body needed it. For some reason, either you're fighting something off or you're burning the candle at both ends. Like your body knows, and it's finally saying to you, listen, we're going to take sleep now. I'm taking this from you. And so I think your body needed it. So I'm glad you got sleep. And it's always available, recorded. And I know it's not as fun because of the live chat, but it's still a fun show to listen to. And we talked about some interesting things yesterday, especially when it relates to Luigi, and shared some kid stories as well. I'm afraid that I came off as like a really harsh mom yesterday. So you'll have to go back to the Nikki Maduro show last night's version and watch that. Sure, had fun. Yeah, he did. He's such a nice person. Totally cool. That mic cracking didn't live up to the name Sure. No, it sure didn't. Absolutely. Great week with Michael, says Jim S. Absolutely. Seemed like a crackle all week with Michael. I thought it was worse sometimes than others. So I don't know about that. But yeah, he did do a terrific job all the same. Absolutely. Kim, on the other show you do, is it true that next week's guest host will be some guy named Mark Thompson? Hopefully, fingers crossed, if he makes it back from the beaches of the Caribbean, okay? Absolutely. What did Michael think of doing Mark's show with a different format than he's used to? He said a few minutes ago that he had a great time. So I think he's amenable to coming back. Absolutely. And I will say it takes a lot of pressure off of me because while it's a lot more work for me when Mark's gone, at least there's not that pressure of having to do every single thing, right? During the show, I can just kind of still be me. So that's nice. Rev says, I was hoping Michael would have given us the dish on the TYT downfall. Oh, I didn't know about a TYT downfall. Ooh, I have to ask him about that. Wow. Ren says, we love you, Kim. Appreciation of Michael also takes nothing away from your hosting skills. We love Mark too. All right. I won't be all ego about it, right? Which is really kind of not like me, but when you are the person who's been filling in and then someone comes in and everyone's like, oh, have him back again and again, you kind of feel like, God, I must really suck. Oh, well. Okay, so let's get into it because I do have some stories. Now that you all know that I think I really suck, I don't really think that. But listen, this is a story that I think is crazy. Check out this plane, all right? This is a Hawaiian Airlines plane. And you can see it's all decorated up with Polynesian motif. Often you'll see this type of motif on tribal tattoos or Polynesian inspired tattoos. This woman is a flight attendant for Hawaiian Airlines. The company policy says you're not to have tattoos that show. We don't want your tattoos showing. But she went and got a Samoan style tattoo. Anyway, because her dad was suffering and it kind of inspired by her father. So she goes and she gets this tattoo. And it's very visible on the hands, on the wrist. And there's really, I would say, not much you can do to cover that one up, this Samoan tattoo. But the thing that surprised me about this is that you would think of all the airlines in the world that Hawaiian Airlines would be supportive of something cultural like this. But she got fired. So she has been working for Hawaiian for about 4 years. Her name is Tracy Sialega Fili. She said she loved working as a customer service agent here. Grew up seeing her mother work at Hawaiian Airlines as well. So I'm sorry, customer service agent, not flight attendant. But this month, she was fired because she got this tualima. This is a traditional Samoan tattoo. Her father had been seriously ill and passed away, and she got this tattoo in honor of her dad. Doesn't matter. Goes against the Hawaiian Airlines rules. No visible tattoos. The employees of Hawaiian that regularly interact with guests are not to have tattoos. So she knew this. She'd been trying to cover this tattoo up with makeup while she was on the job. This is very similar, though, to the tribal markings used by Hawaiian Airlines in their own designs, according to Tracy. She said, it's plastered on our planes, it's plastered inside of our planes, it's on our uniforms as well. Recently, Hawaiian Airlines unveiled Moana 2 airplanes with the characters with a giant image of Maui covered in tattoos. It's on their smaller planes. They're designed with these shapes and symbols and patterns. It's very reflective of the Hawaiian culture. So she's had this tattoo since May. She said her dad was a cancer survivor, but when his cancer came back, everyone decided as a family, or they'd said they decided as a family that I would get a piece that resembles the journey he's been on with his health. The journey that I've taken with him, she said, being his primary caregiver. So this tualima has two different symbols related to family culture. She talks about Moana 2 as an example of the tattoo's significance because in the movie, Moana gets her own tualima in the story. The symbol there, she said, stands for protection. It's been in the culture for a very, very long time. She said it wasn't in the public eye when she was at work or when she was in uniform. And the report came from a gathering that she said we had with my coworkers outside of the company. So she had a hearing last month regarding this tattoo. She pleaded her case. She had a union rep there and everything. But a few weeks later, she gets her termination letter in the mail. And Hawaiian says, listen, we don't comment on ongoing cases involving individual employees. So Hawaiian telling SF Gate, we understand the importance and cultural significance of tattoos in Hawaii. These standards are in place to ensure that our company, which transports guests from around the world, remains respectful to those with cultural sensitivities to tattoos. Who has a cultural sensitivity to tattoos? I mean, you could not like them, but there's a cultural sensitivity? Do people from specific cultures not like tattoos? And when you travel around the world, isn't part of this getting to see different cultures and interact with different people that, in maybe your little corner of the world would never appear? Maybe women don't have tattoos where you live, but you come to somewhere like America or somewhere in Polynesia, and it's different and beautiful in a whole different way. And maybe pops the balloon of things that you thought about people that weren't really based in fact. Yeah, I don't know. They said they regularly review these policies. They will continue to do so as they integrate with Alaska Airlines. Now, the union that represents Tracy is appealing this decision. It's frustrating to me. Tracy says, I love the company itself and what it reflects, but I feel like this termination is wrong. And I'm kind of hoping the whole thing kind of changes some of their decisions and policies that have to actually support Polynesian culture. So, what do you think? She knew the rules and broke them? Or is Hawaiian Airlines wrong? I kind of think both are true in this case. You know, and it's also interesting to me that the people that are maybe out on the tarmac putting the luggage on the plane or servicing the plane, there are different rules for them than the customer facing employees. But you know the rules, you know the policy, even tried to cover it up with makeup. Maybe should you have gotten the tattoo in the first place? I don't know. Ren says she looks way better than that Florida clown woman today. Totally. Dwayne Johnson should make Hawaiian Airlines smell what's cooking, says Phineas. Mindy says they won't change the rules for just one person. Do it after the rule has changed to accept tattoos. Yeah. They should give her a raise, not fire her. Judy says there's a Maori TV news anchor in New Zealand who has her chin tattooed and still does her job. I have seen her, and she's very good at her job. And at first I thought, "Oh, that's weird for an anchor to have a tattoo like that on her face." But then you realize where the broadcast originates from and you think, "Oh, it's a cultural thing." You know, I don't have a problem with that at all. I th- I think this, if you don't want a tattoo, don't get one. But for the people that have them, you know, why do we judge? Why do we judge? I don't have any tattoos. I just don't, it's just not my thing. But I'm not going to judge this woman for having this tattoo. As a matter of fact, I can appreciate it for its beauty and its cultural significance and its emotional significance to her. And as a customer standing on the other side of the desk from her, I would never think, oh, I'm never coming to Hawaiian Airlines again because they have tatted up employees. Absolutely not. Mo says prior to getting the tattoo, she should have filed for a special dispensation from the company to respect the cultural needs that she had to fulfill within her family. Phineas agreeing she should ask for a religious cultural exemption and sue on those grounds. Yeah. Mindy says she's serving people. Some people don't appreciate tattoos. That's fine, but then they don't. My argument is they don't have to get one. Disneyland used to have this type of policy in place. You couldn't have any visible tattoos. They wanted everyone to look clean cut, cookie cutter, whatever. Now they've relaxed those policies and times have changed. There are more people with tattoos and not necessarily cultural tattoos like this, just random tattoos. And think of all the people that you're excluding from these jobs because they don't look like you want them to look. Yeah. Jim says perhaps a compromise, use makeup or a long sleeves and gloves. I don't think she should have to cover it up. I think within a company like Hawaiian Airlines, if you had said she worked for United, I'd still would say, they're being kind of sticklers. But she works for Hawaiian Airlines. I mean, look at the outfit. She's got the, you know, the flower. They have them have the wear the flower behind their ear. They're all supposed to look like they're beautiful, these, you know, exotic, beautiful people, and you're gonna ban the tattoo? Yeah, I don't know. Tammy says Southern Baptists used to be anti-tattoo. Tattoo parlors were outlawed at one time in South Carolina. Shouldn't matter unless it's overly obscene. I didn't know that about Baptists in South Carolina. I mean, I guess we can guess people that are, you know, pearl wearing, skirt to the knee, heels to church on Sunday would be against tattoos. I don't know. Phineas says Hawaiian Airlines doesn't care about diversity and inclusion. I've complained about Hawaiian Airlines' lack of ADA disability policy. Sounds like maybe they need to review multiple policies. Trevor says my flight attendant's son got a small airplane tattoo near his elbow. No one can see it, so it's not a problem. All over your hand? No. And that's the thing. I mean, should she have really been surprised? She kind of knew about the policy because she'd been covering it up with makeup, so she knew about it. But what a thing to have to go, you know, back and forth on with the airline. Dave says, although I do think cultural tattoos and henna are beautiful. Nolophidian, and this is, I think, the comment of the day. Why can't people just mind their own damn business? Makes me think of the governor of Minnesota. Absolutely. Dave says, though, I have to side with the company. What happens if someone has an iffy tattoo like Hegseth with a Jerusalem cross? And that is true, because once you open that can of worms, they could have a, whatever Nazi white supremacist tattoo, and it becomes a freedom of speech issue. Right now, it's just a policy issue. We said no tattoos of any kind, and here you come with it. So I get it, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting story. Can we go to this one? Look at this high rise. Looks like a bunch of little houses stacked on top of each other. So weird looking, but also cool looking, right? Wow. I don't think it really is little houses stacked on top of each other. There's a high rise structure under there. But look at that. That's a view from the side. They're at all different angles. Supposed to be this giant thing of stacked houses. I thought that was kind of cool, just from a design perspective. Where's Courtney when you need her? This is puzzle pieces of houses stacked up on top of each other, and it is this project facade that looks like it's a mixed-use high-rise. It's located in Tirana, Albania. It was designed by the architecture studio's Network of Architecture and Atelier 4. It's conceptualized, they say, as a vertical, as a vertical village. Look how cool it looks, though. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but I realize now that I'm late for my favorite thing that happens on Friday or most of the week on this show. It is At the Movies with Tim Sika. Sorry I'm late, Tim. Welcome.
Hi, Kim. I didn't realize you were late. I wasn't paying attention to the time anyway.
Well, welcome. It is
Hi.
Friday, and you've got some great movies to talk about. I am excited because I'm looking at the first one, and it's called The Seed of the Sacred Fig. I have a fig tree outside my house. So I'm going to think about this. This makes me want to see this movie.
Yeah, symbolically, that relates to this movie. Yeah, Seed of the Sacred Fig. Yeah, winner of the National Board of Review, Best International Feature for 2024. Oh. It got a special jury prize at Cannes. It won Best Director for Mohamed Rasoulah from the LA Film Critics Association, and it's been nominated for a Golden Globe for Best International Feature. This is a very interesting drama, Kim, from Germany. But it's being released under the German banner, but it's an Iranian film. It's in Persian with English subtitles, and it's a kind of a political thriller about this devout Iranian man who's promoted to the position of investigating judge at the Revolutionary Court in Tehran. Right at the moment, a huge protest movement kind of sweeps the country. And as the state kind of cracks down with tougher measures and violence to, quell this citizen unrest, this guy finds himself against his own conscience having to side with the regime, which plays havoc with his personal life and his family, his wife and two daughters who are siding with the protesters. And there's also this subplot involving a missing gun, a service weapon, which the man was given by the state to protect himself and his family. At one point in the movie, it's stolen. And so he gets real paranoid as to who took it? It had to be somebody in my family. It had to be, maybe it was my wife or one of my daughters. So it's a very interesting psychological drama too. And adding to some of the background of this movie are some interesting facts. The filmmaker basically had to make this film in secret. He was approaching this 8-year jail sentence himself personally for protesting. Mm-hmm. And he knew that if the Iranian government caught him making this movie, that they would just add time to his sentence and he would have to go to prison for it. So it's got an interesting, it was made basically in secret. So yeah, what about the movie itself? To some extent, it's a bit flawed in my opinion. It's kind of narratively unwieldy and a little messy. It's nearly 3 hours long. So anybody thinking about seeing it should be aware of its length. However, when all is said and done, and what really lingers in your head when it's all over, is this quietly gripping, urgent, really, domestic drama about women, the women of Tehran, the younger generation there in particular, fighting the system, rebelling against it, defying it, and challenging this very long and very entrenched status quo that's going on over there. The acting is uniformly exceptional. There's too many good things about the movie to let whatever reservations I have about the way in which it was told get in the way. So I recommend it. It has all the earmarks too of a quote unquote award-winning film. It's the kind of quote unquote important film that voters like to acknowledge, and justifiably so. So despite its kind of sometimes clumsy narrative, I think it's overcome by the film's strong content. And yeah, I recommend it. It's a long one. It may test some people's patience, but it's worth a look-see for sure.
Well, we saw recently in Iran the protests across that country.
Yeah.
Where people were standing up for the treatment of women. It was some woman was jailed and or killed for not wearing the right type of garb, and so that kind of hits me.
Yeah.
In the soul. And to have you say this movie was made in secret by someone who's also facing, prison for some type of trumped up political charge, if that is indeed the case, it makes me want to support the film.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Well, I think people should see it. It opens in theaters today. And we're going to be hearing more about it, I think, the closer we get. Well, we're in the midst of award season, but as the different groups start to, talk about their nomination stuff, we're going to hear a lot about it. It'll be on people's lips, I'm sure, in the next, coming weeks. So, and it's probably going to get a nomination for Academy Award too for Best International Feature. Wow. It's that kind of movie. And again, I had problems with some of the narrative at times. I'm thinking, well, they could have done it this way, and maybe this was a little much. But it's still the content is strong, and for all the reasons you said, I think people should check it out if they are so inclined. Yeah.
The next one is The Lord of the Rings, but this is an animated movie, and I don't know how to say the last part.
Yeah.
The Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim.
Yeah, I said that originally too until somebody corrected me. Yes, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim.
Okay.
Yeah, Rohirrim. This is another long movie. It's 2 hours and 12 minutes, which is your longer than usual length for an animated feature. And I guess it's a sort of a prequel to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Peter Jackson one.
Sure.
In fact, the movie was executive produced by Jackson and his wife Fran Walsh, and it was produced by Philippa Boyens, who co-wrote the trilogy, the original trilogy with Jackson and Walsh. So it's clearly in that camp, in that tradition that everybody knows. And it's a prequel in the sense that it takes place 200 years before the rings ever came into the hands of Bilbo Baggins, right? But this story centers on what came before that, on this young rebellious woman, Hera, daughter of Helm Hammerland, King of Rohan, impressively voiced by Brian Cox. Brian Cox gives a great performance in this, and it's a story of betrayal, it's a story of love, loyalty, good and evil. It's epic in its scope. There's lots of requisite battles here, as there are in all of the Rings movies. It's done in the Japanese anime style of animation, which may not be to everyone's taste, but I think the style works for this particular telling. And I liked the film. I liked the story. I liked how the story was developed. I liked the characters. It was captivating enough too to even, you could see it as a live action feature. The story was so good. It would have made a good live action drama. But
Right.
obviously, it was probably cost prohibitive to go that route. And again, with more and more movies these days, I'm finding, Kim, running through the entire film. This film was a particular current relevance in the film and about the film, about holding on to hope and seeing possibility even when all signs point to, this is useless, this is, despairing. One of the characters at one point waxes philosophically, saying how it's not easy to hold on to hope when an ill wind blows. But we see in the story how holding on to that notion can create conditions where possibilities previously unseen by people can manifest and lead to concrete solutions. So it's got some grist relevance in there as well. I like the movie. I think it's a prequel to what Peter Jackson so magnificently accomplished in his Lord of the Rings trilogy, albeit animated, and as this one is. And I recommend it. Fans and critics aren't taking to it very well.
Oh,
I'm noticing
wow.
it's not, people are complaining about it, but hey, there's always going to be disagreement, right, when it comes to movies. But I liked it, and I think the story was fascinating. It held my interest for over 2 hours. So
Huh.
that says something. Yeah.
Well, we're a big Lord of the Rings house over here. My husband loves the series, loves to watch
Ah.
these movies, so it'll be interesting to see what he thinks of this one.
Yeah, it'll be in. Yeah. And I'm
Mhm.
a fan too, but I'm not one of those like diehard fans who knows every particular detail and stuff. So maybe
Sure.
maybe there were things that just didn't jive. But I thought it was a good story, really
Yeah.
epic and yeah, magnificent. Yeah.
Day of the Fight. This is about a boxer seeking redemption, and I was looking for the
The
movie
poster.
poster, which I found, and it said it's from
Oh.
2023, which is interesting.
It's very, yeah, that is weird, because they're actually, the company that's releasing this is presenting it to critics for consideration for awards. That's
Oh,
how I happen to see it. It's a character driven sports drama about this once celebrated boxer, right, who goes on this journey of redemption through his past and his present on the day of his first fight in like 10 years. And
mhm.
since he left prison, too, he's just getting out of prison. So it's written and directed by Jack Huston, who's an actor, and he's grandson of the great American director John Huston. And it stars Michael Pitt as Irish pugilist Mike Flanagan. There's an Irish name for you, right? Mike Flanagan. He couldn't get more Irish than that. Who spends one entire day, right, of his first fight in a decade, basically trying to take care of personal business before he fights. He knows there's a lot at stake for him in this fight, and so he goes to visit people in his past, some of his friends, his former girlfriend or his wife, his ex-wife, I'm not sure, maybe wife, his father, to try and make things right with them, because we learned that he made a lot of mistakes in his life. So it's a redemption story, and it's a story about forgiveness, which lends this predictable weight to the climax, of the big fight. We get this rooting interest in this guy because of what we see his life amounted to that point. And
Does he think he's gonna die? Is that why he goes on an apology tour?
well, I, yeah, I don't want to say, because I think
Okay.
I'll be giving a plot point away if I
Okay.
say so. But yes, yeah. Well, anyway, this was another good movie this week, and again, there's lots to criticize in it. It's kind of embarrassingly old fashioned and emotionally calculating. It's so funny that you kind of guessed some stuff here, but a friend of mine called it endearingly overwrought, which I love, because I thought that best describes this movie. But the acting is so good. Michael Pitt plays the boxer. Steve Buscemi is in this. He plays his uncle. John McGarrow plays his best friend, who became a priest. He took a different route in life. Ron Perlman plays his trainer and manager. Joe Pesci plays his father. And
Oh.
there are a lot of, I thought Joe Pesci was retired, but apparently, he liked this role enough to, it's a small role, but it's really a powerful part in the movie. And there's a lot of these emotional scenes between these characters that more than make the movie a worthwhile experience. I think it's shot in black and white, which lends the memory aspect of the movie a kind of nice touch. And for whatever mechanics are apparent here to tug at your heart, the acting is so good. The characters are so relatable that those things are more than compensatory for any familiarity of the setup or the script. I really enjoyed the film. It reminded me of like an old-fashioned movie like Marty or something. It wasn't as good as like a movie like Marty, but and I'm surprised Michael Pitt is not being recognized more or touted more for his performance as the boxer, because I think it's the best thing he's ever done on screen. So another recommendation goes to Day of the Fight. All the movies this week have something interesting or fun or provocative about them to recommend.
Yeah.
So, and next week, oh my God, next week, boy, are we going to have a lot of movies to talk about, because everything's going to be opening around that time for the Christmas holidays. A lot of the big movies, you know.
Like what are we looking at?
Well, let's see. We're looking at Baby Girl starring Nicole Kidman. We're looking at Unstoppable, which is this drama about this real life one-legged wrestler.
Oh,
fascinating, fascinating movie. Geez, yeah, you caught me off guard here. Lots of the award package movies are going to be coming out next week, so there'll be lots to talk about.
Interesting.
With those movies, yeah.
Your streaming pick for this week is called The Power of Film.
Yeah, I couldn't resist the title, right? The Power of Film. And my never-ending attempts to catch up on what's streaming out there, I came across this docuseries that caught my eye because of the title, The Power of Film. So, I thought, hey, okay, I'm going to check this out. And yeah, so what this is, Kim, it's a 6-part series. It's hosted by a guy who studied American film for something like 60 years. His name is Howard Suber. He's a PhD, professor emeritus. He's from the UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television. And he's an author of a book titled The Power of Film, which is what this series is apparently based on. And the series premise is that there are certain movies that people keep going back to over and over again that were not only popular in their day, but that continue to be popular to this day. And this series endeavors to ask, well, why is that so? Why are these films so enduringly popular? What is it about these films that have that kind of eternal and elemental appeal, right? That people love, and why do they keep watching them over and over, right? So that's the power of film, pretty much in a nutshell. There are, of course, the requisite and what you would expect, great clips. All great stuff from obviously very familiar movies like Casablanca and, Gone with the Wind and It's a Wonderful Life and Psycho and The Wizard of Oz. So all that stuff is kick-ass. I loved the series, but let me just say, I'm going to vent here for just a second. I found the certainty of it a bit annoying. It's an academic approach to the subject, and I have this love-hate relationship with academia, with PhD folks. Not all, but most of them, in my experience, they tend, not all, but some of them assert things and opinions and make observations with a kind of unquestionable certainty because they've studied them for so long, which with films especially, Kim, rankles me, because we're just talking opinions here. I mean, this guy, Howard Suber, who hosts the show, who's admittedly an impressive scholar, he maintains things like, well, there are no interesting characters in movies. There are only interesting character relationships. And I'm going, what is that's a load of bull. I mean, what is that? And then he talks about things like triangulation in character relationships, which to me is just, I don't know. And it's personal, and I think it's a whole nother conversation. I think that kind of academic certainty, I think it's like an enemy to compromise and peace, really, because it's taking the stand like where I'm right, and this is the way it is, Sure. And what were you going to say? I interrupted you. You were going to say something. Yeah,
I was going to say about that comment that's interesting, because you like characters, you're drawn to characters.
Yeah.
But is it because, and we've seen movies that have very little dialogue, that you're
Yeah.
still somehow compelled to like a character.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
about that makes you
Uh-huh.
like it. But
Uh-huh.
the thought that you only like a character or get to know a character based on that character's interaction with other characters
Other
in the show,
characters. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's an interesting concept.
Well, it is, and it's true in some cases, but I don't think it's true in all the cases. But
Mhm.
academics have to, state their premise, and then
Sure.
they try to prove it, with scholarship. And
Yeah.
it's just me, admittedly. I mean, it's just a pet peeve of mine. But in contrast, Howard Suber, the show's host and writer, he does offer some very interesting and insightful comments and observations about these famous movies that are beloved by filmgoers. I guess I was just frustrated because I would have loved to have been in one of his classes. Then I could debate him, and I was like watching this when I was watching this. I found myself debating at the screen. I was like going, "Wait a minute here. Wait, what are you talking about?" So of course I have to recommend it. It's catnip for film lovers and film fans. The clips are great, and it's a topic for debate and discussion. Why do people love these movies so much? And
Right.
it reminds me, actually, there's this famous quote from a 1968 book that, God, I read a long time ago. It's called "The Movies Will Save Themselves," and the quote's attributed to Robert Benton and David Newman. They were screenwriters. They wrote Bonnie and Clyde, and Benton went on to win an Oscar for directing Kramer versus Kramer. And the quote is, "When you talk about films, nobody agrees with anybody. Guys get mad at each other, and the air is full of screaming."
No.
and that's like a perfect description of one of my, this Sunday, the San Francisco Bay Area Film Critics Circle are going to meet for their annual meeting, and every time I go to that meeting, I think of that quote. We're usually a little more civil, but people get really passionate about their opinions. Anyway, this series will definitely stimulate one's thinking about these famous American movies, and that's always a good thing. So I recommend it. Yeah,
things that make you think and make you question things. I like that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you and me
Okay.
both.
Your drumroll
Yes.
classic movie recommendation of the week is going to be Moonstruck. I was gonna let you say it.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna waiting for me. Did you ever see it? Did you ever see Moonstruck?
I thought I had, but now after I looked at the pictures, I think I haven't, and so now I have to watch it.
Kim, I mean, really, Kim. It's a 1987 Oscar winner for Best Actress, Cher. It won Best Supporting Actress for Olympia Dukakis, who plays her mother, and for Best Original Screenplay too. And that was John Patrick Shanley. And this is just one of those near perfect romantic comedies and movies about family. It was actually nominated for Best Picture as well, but it's a comedy, not only a romantic comedy, but it's a comedy about family and about love and about romance, and it's a character-based romantic comedy with these very interesting, fully fleshed out characters that are so human. You just you laugh. You don't laugh at them, you laugh with them more than anything else. It's a very funny comedy. Although they talk a lot about death in this movie, which adds to the humor of it. But Moonstruck is perfect in its casting. It's perfect in its construction. It's perfect in its execution. It brilliantly captures the Italian-American milieu. My grandfather was Italian. And so I could relate to all the shtick and all the stuff that would go on during meals and stuff like that, and the chit chat and stuff. The guy that wrote this, John Patrick Shanley, he knew that world, and he was able to replicate it in this beautiful, affectionate way. Cher plays this Italian-American widow, right, who accepts this proposal of this older man who she's not really in love with, but she likes him enough. And, she decides to settle, I guess, because she's just a couple of years short of 40, right? Until she meets his younger brother through this, whatever. She meets his younger brother, to whom she is instantly attracted. And he's played by Nicolas Cage. I've seen this movie so many times, and it never, ever gets old. It's always fresh. I always see something new. I know how it's going to play out. I know how it's going to go, but I just love watching it. And it's also this ode I liked it because it was like this ode to the power, the undeniable power and the unpredictability of passionate love. With the moon, the moon is constantly glowing magically over the Manhattan skyline in this movie as the events in the film transpire and unfold. Like something will happen and they'll show the moon, and the grandfather that lives with Cher and her parents in this big house. Her father's this plumber, right? So he's like very successful. They live in this big house in Manhattan. Is always looking up at the moon, and it's one of those patently irresistible movies. Period. If you've never seen it, you really need to treat yourself to it.
Okay.
And it's I believe it's streaming on Pluto TV. I don't know what Pluto TV is.
Is that one of those free ones?
I think it is. Yeah, I think
Okay.
it is. It's easily accessible. I mean, and it's been around forever. And
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who I've ever recommended this movie to that didn't just absolutely love it. So that's my pick for classic movie recommendation for this week, Moonstruck.
All right, we're going to recap the Tim Sika segment, starting with this one, The Seed of the Sacred Fig. And you said this is flawed and it's messy and it's almost 3 hours long, but it's still gripping. You said there's too many good things about this movie not to recommend it. You called this one an award-worthy movie and a very important film. That is The Seed of the Sacred Fig. The Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim. We'll
say it together. I know, right? Rohirrim.
Rohirrim.
Believe me, I had to practice
at my house for not getting that right.
Well, I really had to practice it before I came on your show because I thought I'm not going to screw it up anyway.
Oh, leave it to me. I'll screw it all up. You called it epic with lots of battles. You said the Japanese anime style really works for this movie. You liked this movie. You thought it was a captivating story. You said it's about holding on to hope and seeing possibility in times of ill winds. And
yeah.
Boy, isn't that what I'm now going to call the Trump era ill winds. That's my new thing.
Yeah, ill winds. Yeah.
You said the Lord of the Rings fans are complaining about it. You don't understand why, because you thought it was really good. The next one is Day of the Fight. You said the acting in this movie is really, really good. It's a story about forgiveness. You said it's old-fashioned. Your friend called it endearingly overwrought, but really great acting. And you're recommending it despite your misgivings.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The streaming series you recommend is called The Power of Film. You love this series, but you found its academic approach a little annoying because of the stating opinions with certainty thing, but still, you say it's catnip for movie fans.
Yeah.
And lastly, your classic movie rec of the week is Moonstruck. You said it's a near perfect romantic comedy and it's irresistible. And you say it's streaming on Pluto, so we'll have to go check out Moonstruck this weekend. What a great recommendation. Thank you, Tim Sika.
You're welcome, Kim McAllister.
What a wonderful segment. You've given us so much to think about. And I'm looking forward to next week when you say it's going to be a monster segment full of all the holiday blockbusters. So this is going to be great.
Okay, looking forward to next week, Kim. You have a good weekend. Thanks for having me. Okay,
At the movies
bye.
with Tim Sika. Bye, Tim Sika. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, guys. I see a lot of comments about movies and what you guys are watching. Rhonda says, I just rewatched Leaving with Las Vegas and got even more out of it. That's something Tim says all the time, that if he doesn't like a movie, because he's very thoughtful about whether or not he's going to issue a not recommended. And so he'll go back and watch a movie another time, even if he didn't love it, which I love about him. And sometimes he says he changes his opinion or he gets something else out of it. And so rewatching those movies, sometimes you see it in a whole different way. Phineas says, I watch John Wick and Jack Reacher all day on Pluto. That's a lot of violence, my friend. I don't know if I could take that much. Yikes. Judy says, Kim, you will not regret watching Moonstruck. No, I will watch that movie this weekend. Tim has convinced me. I will absolutely do it. Teacher Lori says that Pluto Network is excellent, free, very few short commercials. She highly recommends. I will download that app and get Moonstruck rocking on my TV. Liz loved Moonstruck. Absolutely. Joy saw Moonstruck in the theater. Ooh, way back when, right? Teacher Lori says Moonstruck is excellent, one of the best Nicolas Cage movies, along with Leaving Las Vegas. Judy loved it as well. Phineas says, how is Moonstruck a classic? Well, it's from 1987 and we're in 2024. So I guess those of us that, came of age in the 80s are all classics at this point. So we'll take it as a compliment, right? Yeah. Anyway, that is a look at the movies for this week. And huge thank you again to Tim Sika for coming on through. Let's go back, if we can, to talk about some of the stories we have for this week, because I think we have time for another one. And I wanted to talk about chips. And one of the chips, if you have sleep apnea, and this is really creepy, okay? But there's this new chip they can surgically embed in a nerve in your tongue. This is the future where we're going to be embedded with computer chips, but apparently it's secure for sleep apnea. This whole computer chip surgery. I don't know how I feel about it, this implant, but I know sleep apnea can be deadly. And so when faced with death, I think I would take the computer chip. It's an app-controlled sleep apnea microchip. They implant this chip on a critical nerve. They say it could mean relief for millions of people with this condition, sleep apnea, that's linked to hypertension and strokes and heart attacks and diabetes, and again, even death. In sleep apnea, in those with sleep apnea, the airway becomes obstructed during sleep and breathing stops for several seconds, maybe even minutes. But now, surgeons have started implanting this chip on a critical nerve that helps you breathe. The people that are getting this surgery sometimes say, I was afraid I was going to die. So, with this one woman pictured here says, as soon as I heard about this new technology, I was very interested because everything I've tried so far hasn't worked. Her name is Natalie. As you can see, the surgeons made this small incision under her chin. Then they placed this chip on a nerve that controls a muscle in the tongue. The chip sends a mild electrical impulse to stimulate the nerve to move the tongue forward, which then opens up the airway. And what it means for people like Natalie is they have a better night's rest and they can breathe smoothly throughout the night. The lack of oxygen at night can lead to hypertension and strokes and heart attacks and diabetes. And again, as we mentioned, death. In severe untreated obstructive sleep apnea, it can be as high as 1 in 3 with 10 years as far as deaths. Yikes. Now, the current treatment most people will say that they are using is the CPAP machine. That stands for Continuous Positive Airway Pressure, CPAP. And it's this kind of contraption with a mask that you put on your face with a pump that blows through a mask into the mouth and the throat, keeping your airway open. But people that have this say it's uncomfortable to the point that a third of people stop using it altogether. So in the UK, they have 2 different types of chips, tongue insertion chips that they'll use. And they say it's really working. After you have this surgery, you've got to wait about 6 to 8 weeks, and then they'll flip the implant on and set the level of stimulation that's comfortable for you. And then you can turn on this device with a remote control or a smartphone app when you go to bed. Some patients say that for the first time in years, they are sleeping so soundly that they are dreaming. People haven't dreamt for a long time, and now they are. The thing, I guess, has this zaps the nerve and just moves your tongue out of the way when it starts to block your airway. Some people that suffer from sleep apnea say, for the first time in a long time, I look forward to going to bed. All I have to do, says one woman, is switch it on, and I'll go into a much healthier, longer, deep sleep. For now, the operation is being limited to a small number of patients who can't use the CPAP machine, and they're most likely to benefit from this. But it seems like this is something that has worked for the people that they have done it with. And I'm thinking this is going to be more widespread, having a chip implanted into your body. Yeah. I don't know. Speaking of chips, Google has a new chip, and I know this is a bit of a nerdy story, but this computer chip is called the Willow Chip, and it's a big one. Look at that. It's a quantum computing chip. And this chip speeds everything up and is expected to speed more things up in the future. This quantum chip, again called Willow, can reduce errors exponentially, which is important because quantum computers can, I guess, create errors. The more qubits they say we use in Willow, the more we reduce error and the more quantum the system becomes. What's a qubit, you ask? It's a unit of information in quantum computing, like a bit in classic computing. A qubit. It's a system is described as becoming more quantum the faster it solves problems. The Willow chip, the Willow quantum chip, created in Santa Barbara, one of the only few facilities they have there, built from the ground up just for this purpose. So they say this is groundbreaking, that this Willow chip performed a computation in under 5 minutes that would take one of today's fastest supercomputers 10 septillion years. It has so many zeros, this number, that I can't even fathom how long that is. So the quantum computers we use now, supercomputers, it would take one of them 10 septillion years, and it takes this Willow chip under 5 minutes. Septillion years is thousands of billions of years, longer than the age of the universe. Wow. The one drawback we know about is the fear that this technology could allow hackers to become more efficient as well. But quantum computing is still experimental at this stage. But in the future, especially now with this Willow chip, it's expected to speed up all kinds of things, from making medicines to nuclear fusion research. But this Willow chip, be aware of it, because I think it's going to change things. Important things in the world. Crazy. And that, my friends, is the After Party Live on a Friday. I'm so grateful to you all for being along for the ride. Thank you so much to those who have contributed to the show. Wes chipping into the show today. Also, Pamela and Yvonne, Marilyn, Jim S., who gave a little more than he wanted to and then said Merry Christmas. Janet R., I saw your contribution come through as well. Please find the PayPal link in the show description, also in the About tab here on the After Party. And thank you for all the ways you contribute. Just really, really appreciate that support and all of the messages that you guys send as well. You can find me at kim@theafterparty.live. That's the email address. And I always welcome messages from you. If you have ideas for the show, articles you want to send, what have you, kim@theafterparty.live is the way to get me. And I hope you have a great weekend. Make it a really good one. Read a book or curl up and watch a movie. Let's watch Moonstruck and then talk about it on Monday. Whatever you end up doing, make it a really, really great weekend. And I'll see you back here on YouTube at 11 o'clock. Mark Thompson returns, and it'll be great on the Mark Thompson Show on Monday. But again, have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.